Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. HeirofCarthage here, and you know what? I have to be honest, I have not been very excited about Total War recently. It seems like ever since the launch of Warhammer 3, there kind of just been these stumbles, and things of course got more exciting as Immortal Empires came out. But then it's like the stumbling just had to continue, and then we ended up in our current situation where, we had all the situations leading up to the Shadows of Change, and then the outrage from the Shadows of Change, and some of the messaging there, and it really was a lot of bad PR work. It was not exciting, and I've never seen the Total War community so up in arms against a game that feasibly we all love so much, which is probably why we get upset at it, myself included. I've been making content for Total War games for well over 10 years, getting closer to 15 years, and it was sad. I would sit around some nights, wondering before I go make a video, like, what am I doing? Do I still want to play this? And it was frustrating. And I realized that, like everybody, we all probably get some burnout on games. I think I've been feeling a lot of burnout towards games in general, not just Total War. But today there was an exciting announcement, and I'm so glad to see this announcement. So a couple of things have happened since this whole debacle ripped wide open with CA and the fans not long ago, and that is that they first apologized, which is something you don't see from companies very often these days, and I was hopeful, because, again, they just flat out apologized in the last message, like actually said, we're sorry. Again, not something you see very often, and then we get this announcement today, which is quite exciting. So Rich Aldridge here from Creative Assembly brings us a pretty cool announcement, which is they're talking about some changes to Shadows of Change in response to the upset, state that the fan base was in over the cost of the DLC and feeling like it didn't meet expectations. And so this is their answer. And in this answer, they start to tell you about additions that are going to be coming in for Grand Cathay. And it's really neat. It's exciting additions. It's going to be adding some stuff that is really going to add a lot to Cathay and really give them a whole lot more fun tools and exciting stuff. There's a whole bunch of words here. I'm not going to read all the words, but I think one of the things that's important to cover is right here in this what to expect moving forward. And what they tell you is that, hey, based on the learnings from, what we've seen with Shadows of Change and what people were upset with the level of content, and then moving into Thrones of Decay. So this is them not just correcting the issues with Shadows of Change, but addressing the future with Thrones of Decay, and they tell you, here's what you can expect from Thrones of Decay. So they say 3 legendary lords, each playable in Realm of Chaos and Immortal Empires, and then they say there's going to be unique mechanics, 3 legendary heroes, 1 per race, 3 lords, 1 per race, 3 heroes, 1 per race, 5 units, infantry, cavalry, monsters, etc. per race, 3 regiments of renown per race, and 1 free LC character. And they said that Ackhold Hellbrass, for instance, is the one that they did on Shadows of Change, and that they'll have a legendary lord for Thrones of Decay, so there's a free LC. And then they say that other future or further content could also include spell lores, mounts, and additional free LC. But this is pretty cool. They're setting the stage here and telling you outright, this is what you should expect with Thrones of Decay in terms of content. And I like that. That's a pretty good size content pack in my mind, and especially if we're talking about DLC being as expensive as it is these days. I mean, that's a lot of content. And speaking of a lot of content, they are going to add to Shadows of Change in order to bring it up to that level. And so they have these additions to Grand Cathay that they started to announce here, and these are some pretty interesting additions. And the first one that they talk about is Satang the Watcher here, which is actually, to me, sounds like and looks like a sentinel construct that we've seen, a terracotta sentinel, except this time it's got a bow. So imagine like a terracotta sentinel and a bone giant have a baby, and it's Satang the Sentinel of the Sky. And I have to admit, this looks freaking awesome. I like that art there. So here's a good picture of the art, and then they go on to talk a little bit about where they came up with the ideas and how they worked it and brought it to life. It's really, really cool. So he's going to be a legendary hero for Grand Cathay, and it's a really interesting legendary hero. So think about some of our other legendary heroes. Like one of the ones we got that was really unique, of course, was Ariel. And this kind of reminds me of that in a way, in the sense that this is very different. Like, there's not another legendary hero, anything like this. And so this is really exciting to see as content. This isn't just some reskinned character that was already out there. Yes, it's kind of a reskinned Terracotta Sentinel, but they had to add the design of it and think of a way to feature it and make it a legendary hero. So this is going to be a huge, heavily armored Terracotta Sentinel construct that's going to strike with deadly precision from range, and is going to be a pretty decent combatant in up close melee as well. And they tell you that it's actually going to have the construct, attribute, just like the Tomb Kings do. So they've kind of reworked the constructs a little. It's going to have tough and heavy, which means a ton of armor. It's going to be able to throw little units around, and then the giant bow is going to give the long range attacks. So that's pretty cool. So Saitang the Watcher coming in as a legendary hero. So that's pretty exciting. And then we're going to have a kind of more standard hero type that's going to be introduced for Cathay. Now, I think this is a really cool add. Cathay was definitely missing this from its roster. And they basically said that they're going to be bringing in the Gate Master, which is kind of like a Jade Warrior who has passed certain trials and met certain standards. And it's basically going to be a defensive character that's going to have a sword, shield, and crossbow, and helps improve the defenses of your army, which is cool because that kind of feeds into how Grand Cathay plays the game. So it's a hybrid combatant. I would say think like a Druki, Dreadlord with the, sword and crossbow, that kind of thing, probably. And it says that there are mounts available, like a warhorse, so that's pretty cool too. So it's going to be able to be on foot or on a warhorse, and that's going to add some flexibility. And I like this again because now we got a melee hero in Cathayan armies. Honestly, that feels like it's been missing. Cathay just didn't really have anything in that niche, so I'm excited about this addition. And then they talked about the Great Moonbird, which is going to be a monster and monstrous mount that's being added to Cathay. So again, coming as both availability. And so this is really cool, the Moonbird. I'm not going to read the exact words on this. I'll have this linked. I don't want to steal all their words, but they have really cool kind of snippets of lore about all of these if you want to go through those. But yeah, the Moonbird here is going to basically kind of be like a high elf phoenix. It's going to have magic attacks, it's going to fly, and it's going to perform a similar role. It even has like a vortex ability that it can spin up, kind of like the arcane, what was that one? I forget the name of the arcane phoenix. Is it arcane phoenix I think they added? Yeah, the arcane phoenix. That had that special spell bound to it. So that's going to be the Moonfire here, that it has that vortex attack, flaming and magical attacks. It says it's an option mount for Astromancers on top of being a monster itself. So this adds a couple of neat things for Cathay, which is a flying single entity monster. It's going to add that mount for Astromancers. And honestly, this is great because Astromancers were probably on the borderline of kind of boring as they leveled up. And so I think this is a really cool add for Cathay. And a nice way to juice up Astromancers and make them more interesting. And then they've also added a Celestial Lion monster and monstrous mount for Cathay, and this thing looks cool. This thing kind of screams like Hippogriff to me. Is it Hippogriff? No, Griffin. Sorry, it really looks a lot like the Griffin model that we see in the Empire. Obviously just more lion here overall, but very cool looking concept art that they have there, showing you the Celestial Lion. And this, again, single entity flying monster. So Cathay is really going to have some interesting air assets at its disposal now. And then couple that with the fact that it's a pretty good turtle faction, it's really going to add for some interesting campaign gameplay. I can't speak for how it's going to roll into multiplayer because I'm just not very involved in multiplayer anymore. But I do like the facets that this is going to add to Grand Cathay and campaign. It says it's a fast unit. And then, of course, it's fearsome. It says by using a fearsome roar. And the terror attribute, it can sink fear, so it's going to be potentially a unit that you would use to cause terror routes. And it is a mount option also for Celestial Generals. And again, this is exciting. Celestial Generals, I think, can eventually get mounted on a... It's not a... Is it a Sky Junk? No, the Sky Junk... I don't remember. It's the one that just has the guns on it. I forget the names of them. Sky Lantern, I think, is the one. The Sky Lantern. So this is a way more exciting mount option. Gives them a little bit of melee capability, more speed, the ability to really get in there and terror out enemies. So I love this. This is a great change for Cathay. And it's interesting, I didn't know what to make of this because I hear people talking about the Monkey King when it comes to Cathay. I don't know who that is. I don't know any of the backstory on that. But it's interesting because they say before I end the day, you may have noticed an omission that you've been hoping for us to cover in Grand Cathay's roster, Elite Core Infantry. I didn't necessarily think Cathay was missing that, but apparently other people do. It says there's a very good reason for this, and trust me, we aren't monkeying about. That to me seems like they're dropping some kind of hint. I don't know what that hint means, but I figured I'd call that out if anybody wants to take a stab at it. But folks, I don't know about you, but this gives me some dang hope. And hope is something that I haven't felt for Total War for at least a couple of months now, and I would love to feel again. I just haven't been excited about games. And this is exciting. They're going to add cool stuff back to this DLC, and also it means we now know kind of what to expect for Thrones of Decay in terms of the content type that is to come, and this could be a really neat thing. So personally, I am very excited about this. I feel very positive about this change. To me, this reads like that CA really took some time and thought, how could they bring some cool content back? And yes, clearly they're using assets already in the game. So like, for instance, Satang is coming from a Terracotta Sentinel base. And, you know, some people, if you just want to be negative, I suppose you come out there and be like, yeah, well, some of this stuff, I understand that any company is going to try and repurpose stuff where they can, but this is exciting. Cathay doesn't have anything like Satang, and we, quite frankly, don't have a construct legendary hero anywhere else in the game. That's really cool. Cathay's roster was definitely missing a melee hero type, and then the addition of those flying mounts is going to be super great. To me, this is going to bring me... I've already played the Cathay campaigns and enjoyed them thoroughly, and now I'm going to be able to play them again and enjoy them even more thoroughly. Plus, I have to admit, like, as I look ahead at like the Old World, which I'm painting a Tomb King's army for the Old World right now, the tabletop game, man, how cool would it be to see this guy on the tabletop with Cathay eventually? So I hope that Old World comes around and eventually gets to use some of this stuff too. But man, this is exciting. Anyway, you all get down in the comments, tell me what you think. To me, this brings me some hope. Hope that I've been wanting for a while, and I don't know, maybe I'm jumping on here too early and too excitedly, but I'm excited for this, and I really can't wait to get my hands on this content. As soon as we learn more, I'll let you know. HeirofCarthage, signing out for now.